Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are super excited for you to meet our guest today. And as always, our goal is singularly focused. How are we as women stepping up and letting our light shine? And in the process, how are we lighting up another woman and taking another woman for the ride and lifting her up, and in the process, creating this movement of women investing in women so that we can all share in the prosperity. There's truly enough for everybody. We live in an abundance world. There is truly enough for everybody. How do we embrace that mindset, and how do we truly allow and enable each other to sparkle? And in that is our ennobling journey. Robin, go ahead and introduce our guest today. I am super stoked.
Oh, I am so excited to have our wonderful Donna Hemmert with us today. And I know Donna because she went through the same program that I did, the Master of Applied Positive Psychology program through the University of Pennsylvania. But she went through about 5 years. She's the class of 2015. I'm the COVID class of 2020. And Donna is amazing. After graduating, she began an organization called Positive Voices, ended up having Larry King and James Pawelski, who's director of the MAPP program, as the co-host of this program, had many wonderful guests on. And then Donna later, more recently, has started a workshop for women who are in midlife. And so Donna, tell us, just a little bit about Positive Voices, and then more about your workshop for women and what motivated you or inspired you, gave you the fire to do this great work for women.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just want to thank you both for having me here today. I'm super excited and I really love your mission. Very inspiring. So Positive Voices, we're a benefit corporation, and our extra bottom line, if you will, is building global well-being. And so all our programs are geared toward helping people thrive in their life, whether it's, help them build more meaning in their life, increase their resilience or well-being, move into growth, or improve their relationships. All our programs are geared around this. And we have everything from online courses to our Positive Conversations video series, which was hosted by Larry King, the late Larry King, and James Pawelski, the head of the MAPP program at the University of Pennsylvania. And we do things like live facilitated sessions and all kinds of things to actually help people increase their well-being. And the program, my passion project right now of all that, is a program I called Carpe You for women in midlife and beyond. And what inspired me to create it is really, I had gone back and gotten my master's degree after the age of 50, after spending 25 years working in technology in different executive positions. And a few years after getting my master's degree, I was sitting one day in a conference, realizing like how much better I felt than I had a few years before on every level. My meaning level had gone up. My relationships were going better than ever. My positive emotions and kind of, day-to-day happiness level was higher. And I physically felt better. And it really caused me to stop and ponder like, wow, what is going on here? And what is the difference between women who thrive in midlife and those who don't? And that led me on the path to really look at what are the enablers in midlife that really help women live a great next chapter after they hit midlife. And that's when I basically built the course and the model around Carpe You, your next best act for women in midlife and beyond.
That is so amazing. As I'm hearing you talk, what is coming up for me, Donna, is a lot of times in the American Western society at midlife, women find everything falling apart, right? Marriages fall apart. They are losing their spouses. and the life they built to a younger woman. They're losing their careers to more modernized way of doing things. There are only so many seats at the top. So if they're at the top, those are shaky. So everything becomes uncertain for a woman when she reaches midlife. And to give them that opportunity to pivot, to boost, that is amazing. So what are, if you were to say 3 elements, whether it's mindset or attitude or behavior related, what are 3 things that every woman needs to embody as she's growing up and becoming her own in the workplace and in life, so that when she gets to midlife, she gives herself that opportunity to transcend that pivot point?
Yeah, I think of it maybe a little bit different than that, but I do think one of the things that's really important is that I want women to believe, and when they do believe, that this can be a great chapter in their life. Obviously, the odds of it being a great chapter really increase. And so that's a big part of what I really focus on doing, is showing women that, yeah, there are challenges at this point in time, but there's also gifts. I think the willingness to move into growth is really important. Yeah, I don't know if I could choose just 3. I do know that my model, specifically when you talk about behavior, has 5 elements, which is courage, authenticity, relationships, purpose, and energy, Carpe. And we really focus on helping women, for one, build their courage, because if you don't have courage, you are going to be less likely to move out of your comfort zone and into your growth zone, doing what it is you want to do for your next act. And authenticity has to do with really paying more attention to your inner voice and who you are, and bringing that to the world. Relationships relates to not just the fact that relationships are so key to our well-being, and they're part of every well-being, popular well-being model out there. A lot of us has heard it's more toxic to be lonely, according to research, than it is to smoke 15 cigarettes a day. So we focus on relationships, not just generally, but also in midlife, having the right circle of people around you that help you move forward, right? In fact, when we go through that, we do something called a social audit to make sure you're getting the right kind of support around you. And then purpose is about having that North Star. You know, what is it that you're unique you and who you are and all your gifts and strength that you want to bring into the world? And for women in midlife, some women are actually at a point where they're feeling like they really want to just be excellent with what's in front of them. And their goals may look, like maybe a little smaller. And I encourage people to really look at what they're bringing to the world and not look at it that way, but how are you impacting people? Or they might have like the nonprofit they've always wanted to do, and now they feel like they have the autonomy and so forth to do it. And then energy is really about your mindset, eating, moving, sleeping, having a contemplative practice, making sure that, from a somatic perspective, we are solid enough so that we are able to move forward in our next best act. And I just want to say one other thing real shortly, because you touched on something about how women feel at this time. A lot of times women feel like maybe they're less relevant or invisible, and not all women at this age do, and are fearful because they get the message from pop media that our husbands are leaving in droves and we're all home alone, if you believe the stereotype of movies and so forth, pining as our children have emptied the nest. And the reality of that situation isn't exactly what is portrayed in pop media. Divorce rates, for example, are higher once we hit our 50s. But what most people don't know is that 2/3 of those divorces are actually initiated by women. And according to research, more women than not do well after divorce. And there's a lot of interesting things that are going on. Obviously, we hit menopause. That can be super challenging because it can deplete our energy, it can impact our mood, and there's so much to that. And trust me, when I first hit my 50s, I kind of fell off a cliff with menopause. But what a lot of people don't know is that there's actually some brain changes that actually help us move forward in our next best act. Not only do we tend to have a little more autonomy if we had kids and the nest is starting to empty, but after menopause, there's things that happen in our brains that actually help us move forward. For one, the amygdala is less sensitive. And oxytocin is actually decreasing. And you may think that's a bad thing, but it's almost like our mommy brain starts to unplug. And we're still able to love and interact with our children, but we're able to have a focus that moves beyond just caretaking.
I am just so impressed with everything you've just said. Your next best act and all of these components of strengthening women in their next best act. And what is coming up for me, that is just so powerful what you're doing. And if every woman can hear that and do that, that's fabulous. One thing is coming up for me. We had a guest early in this process, and she had been in corporate America for many, many years, very successful. In her later years, she took time off for about 1.5 years to care for her aging mother. And then her mother was ill and aging, and she left the workforce to go care for her mother. Her mother eventually passed away. She then tried to get back into the workforce. And she said she sent out 200 resumes, got no offers, because she's this older woman trying to get back in. And so she then started her own company. And, you go, girl. I was horrified to hear that, because to me, older women, and I'm 66, by the way. Okay, I don't know what you define as old, but I'm 66. And I bet I'm sure I would fall into the category of an older woman. And I'm saying, we have so much to offer. Are you kidding me? So my question, to the degree that you have interacted with the corporate world, what could be done to help the corporate world realize you are sitting on a gold mine with mature women who maybe have left the workforce, are coming back in, or who's been in it, or who've never been in it, are coming back in. Maybe like I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, then started working part-time and more. What about those women? And so some thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's a hard one to slay. I will tell you, it makes me immediately go back and think of statistics. I tend to want to compel people with information. And, we know, for example, that, Fortune, pick it 150, 500 companies, when they look at the profitability of companies that have women leaders and specifically women board members, it is absolutely higher. It also makes me think about the advantage of having, women with so much domain expertise. One of the strengths that as we get older is wisdom, and all wisdom really is pattern matching. And I can tell you, I sit on my husband runs a data center company. And as I said before, that I had worked in technology for about 1/4 of a century. Makes me sound very old. And I actually sit on the board of that business. And it's so interesting because what wisdom is it's pattern matching. It's being able to take a situation over here that's unrelated to a situation over here and then immediately come to an answer. And what that company, and actually I'm also a team liaison for an organization called Casitas Rowing, because of this ability. And I think this ability tends to be very strong in women. The ability to take because women really focus on a lot of interpersonal aspects to a different degree than men do. And so I get pulled on sometimes on a day-to-day situation when there's an issue because of all that, what I might be doing in my brain that I'm not even aware of when I'm doing pattern matching is I might be pulling on a problem I had with a sibling. It may not even be in the corporate context, and be able to identify a situation and then be able to go into it and actually, deflate the situation. And as harsh as it seems, I mean, one of the things that I get pulled in for is for disciplinary situations, and actually when people need to be laid off. And the reason why, and I think part of this is a strength that women have, is being able to go in there with, the female perspective, which does tend to really think a little more on the softer skills and the interpersonal skills, and be able to go in and connect with people and solve situations. But, the one thing I could really point to is I feel like with midlife women, again, pop media, culture, and all that have done a really good job of portraying us in such a light that it's no shock to me that sometimes we get underestimated, and it's absolutely not the reality. So I think, we need to showcase more and more of like what the strength of an organization, how that changes when you include older women and what they bring to bear.
I
don't know if that
love
answered your
hearing
question.
I
Oh, sorry.
love hearing the picture you're painting here, Donna, because ultimately what is seen and what is heard is what reality looks like for people, right? So
Mhm.
one of the reasons Robin and I are doing this program is also for women to see that, yes, us women, regardless of the environment we grow up professionally and personally, it is not scarcity. There's abundance. And if we lean in, we can help each other, we can lift each
Mhm.
other. And when women see other women who are different in every external way, but in our humanity, we are connected, because women have the power of connecting in our common thread of our humanity, right? That's why almost every social problem is resolved when women get involved, because men get too involved in, whose testosterone is stronger, right? So it is a femininity trait. And as we think about everything that's going on in our country, our global community, our human world around us, everything is polarizing. And the one thing that is needed to bridge our differences so that we can truly thrive as one human race, ultimately there's only one race, the human race, right? If we are to thrive as one human race, the feminine energy, the femininity, the emotional intelligence. I did my doctoral research in moral cognitive capability of CF4 teams and how that builds or destroys the long-term viability of an organization and the underlying society. There is 30 plus years of research that shows that women have a larger moral cognitive capability and a larger emotional intelligence because of their ability to build relationships.
Yeah.
How do you see women having the ability to stepping into bridge our divide today as a key to transcending the scenarios we're in today?
I mean, I think we bring with us the strengths that we have. And I do think we need to be generous of spirit. I love what you're doing here, because I think this is the type of thing when we help each other, we can absolutely bridge the gap. But something interesting and that makes me feel super optimistic, and I am predisposed to optimism, I will tell you, on the onstart, which sometimes usually is a positive, and sometimes people beat me up for it a little bit. But one of the things that really made me feel optimistic is when I graduated from college earlier, when I got my bachelor's degree and I studied business, it seemed like everywhere I turned, you kept bumping into what is the purpose of a corporation. And the bottom line was maximize shareholder wealth, maximize shareholder wealth, maximize shareholder wealth. And of course, that to me didn't seemed to highlight some of the softer things that I felt were super important in organizations and for corporate culture and things like that. Fast forward to getting my master's degree at Penn, and we actually are in the Wharton building. And stunningly, and here it is, more than 25 years later, I'm hearing things like servant leadership and humility in business, and all of these things that I had never even begun to hear of when I got my undergraduate in business. And a lot of these things are the things that I think women are particularly strong in. And so I do really believe there is work being done in this area. I believe that there is a trend that is moving forward that women need to jump on to, and we have natural inborn propensity to be able to serve in some of these areas for sure. And the next generation coming up, and I'm not just talking about females, I'm talking about males, I think they are going to be change makers in ways that, I'm at the tail end of baby boom that we're not. And I'm not saying baby boomers didn't move the needle in their own way, but I think that generations coming up are actually embracing things that we didn't embrace prior. And I think that will only help women in business. And I will tell you, believe it or not, I had a baby at 45. So even though I'm 61 now, I have an almost 16-year-old at home. And I will tell you, it's really awesome to hear the way that my son interacts with other boys and the level of openness and there's really a different level of tolerance and all kinds of things that I see in the generation. So I think there are trends that we can jump onto. And I think maybe the thing that sometimes stands between women and doing this is one, they don't see themselves as having, like I said earlier on, as this being a point in their life where they can express their own authentic power. And two, I think it takes courage, right? And so I think building courage, you can focus on courage. Science shows that courage is actually something that we can grow. I think, women knowing that they have what it takes and stepping up and playing a role, whether it's big or large, and just kind of fanning the flames of what appear to me to be trends. I think that's a good thing. And I think, to the work you guys are doing, we just need to be generous of spirit with each other. We really need, it makes me think of Adam Grant and his work on givers and takers, which you both may be familiar, but Adam Grant talks about, takers are people who give with an expectation of something to get in return, where givers will give without that expectation. And there is such a thing as taking it too far and not taking care of yourself. And I'm not talking about that, but I think women, we can move forward as givers with each other, be generous of spirit and help boost each other up so that we can leverage, trends that are out there and fight the trends that, that don't work.
Beautiful. I love everything that you're saying. It totally lines up. Just real briefly before we have to wrap this up, we'll have to have you on again because this is too short of a conversation. But just very briefly, what are a couple of the challenges that you ran into in, for example, setting up your Carpe You program, external challenges or even internal challenges that you met and overcame?
Well, doing this has actually been an exercise in my own courage, because even though in my background, I was a CEO in my background, I've been the VP of marketing, I've headed up business development in organizations, and yet I had a hard time finding my voice. I would always avoid being in the spotlight. That's just something I did my whole life. So for me, it was really about, moving past and doing the things I'm actually talking about. And I think that's a barrier for a lot of women. But one of the things I've bumped into quite a bit that's been an obstacle just in the workshops. I mean, marketing's always an obstacle, right? Anybody who's doing anything and trying to use their voice knows those are obstacles out there, and those are things we work on. But the one that is a little bit perhaps more controllable was getting in cohorts with women and starting the Carpe You process, and women telling me, yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not looking for purpose. Now, this is not the majority by any means, but I tend to have these people in every single cohort, and I get it. They're tired. They're feeling beaten down, and they'll say things like, I don't even know if I want a purpose at this point. Right. And so one of the biggest things has been helping women see that there is this great next act, and then helping them building block by building block start to find their enthusiasm to engage again. And I will tell you I've always do a survey at the end of my cohorts, and I've yet to have someone go through it that doesn't make that transition into growth. But it can be really hard because a lot of times when women get to this point, they're just a little tired.
Mm-hmm. And that makes total sense given the amount of giving women do raising a family. I myself am from a culture where women don't get married until they're financially stable. My mom had 4 children after 41.
Wow.
So I was raised by an older parent, but that's cultural.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen in my own life the maturity of the children who are raised by parents who are settled themselves as opposed to parents who are still growing up, right? So I'm the beneficiary of that environment. So totally resonates what you're telling me. And I also truly embrace the message of courage. I come from a culture where we do a fasting for 10 days. First 3 days are for the goddess of courage. Second 3 days are for the goddess of wealth. And wealth is 9 different types of wealth, and none of it is money. So relationships and this earth and our ability to connect with humanity, all of that is wealth. And then the last 3 days are for knowledge. And then the 10th day, we put our purpose at the altar and we pray. And then we take the tools of our purpose and then initiate ourselves into any new aspect of our purpose. And we are raised in that environment from childhood to grave. And everything we're introduced to in life is introduced to on that 10th day. So coming from a culture where this is ingrained in us over and over and over again, it makes me happy to hear you say that, because we need everybody to be able to embrace it regardless of where we come from. Because if every woman feels seen, heard, and supported, even when a woman is tired, other women can lift her up and breathe new energy into it. So what are some of the ways women who still have the energy, women who are still young, can help the older women do this? And the reason I ask is I am currently, as we talked before the program started, in Belize in the Caribbean working for economic progress. And an economy doesn't progress until women progress. Mm-hmm. And I am in a community where women don't see their value. Women see their sexuality as a medium of exchange to hold on to men. Giving birth seems the tool to hang on to the men. Marriages are not considered normal. Then the children are traumatized. And I'm working with 80 girls in a school system who are dealing with the at-home effects of this kind of conflict and abuse and physical violence and sexual violence. And so when a mother doesn't know to embrace a second act, the daughter doesn't get her first act.
Yeah.
Can we take a small step into that world from your perspective?
I think we can. I mean, the one thing I've learned through the course of, my corporate career and my relationships and even now. And it was interesting. My son goes to a school that was actually founded by Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was an Indian philosopher, and he founded a school. Oh my gosh, I lost my point. What was I going to say about Krishnamurti? A lot of what he talks about is being receptive. And that's, and not believing everything you think as well, which is one of the things I love. But one of the things I've learned is that you're not going to be able to convince anyone of anything until they feel heard. And that's whether there's conflict going on or there's not conflict going on. And so one of the things I think we can do, and it was interesting at my son's school this week, we had a fundraising tea last week, and it happened to be about listening and really actively listening to another human being. And then at the same time, as I mentioned, I'm a team liaison for a Casitas rowing organization. And what that means is if somebody has an issue with the organization, read in potential conflict, they come to me and I work between the organization and whoever has an issue to kind of mediate it. And there was a big issue going on last week, and it was really timely for while that was going on, for this parent to be articulating something to me. And it was a huge reminder. But I found in my life, and it doesn't mean I don't forget sometimes, because I'm a flawed human like everybody and a work in progress, that if you really make someone feel listened to first, then there's an opening for information to come in that may be different than what their experience is. And, how do you convince people at that point in time? I think, one of the reasons I started Carpe You is, if you can connect women together and they can see examples of other women taking small steps, and you can help them build small steps, give a small hand up, because one of the things we do know about building self-efficacy, think of it as your self-confidence, is one small step can lead to a bigger step, can lead to a bigger step. And then over time, it can change your idea of reality. Can it be slow? I would say yes and no. It's slow in the context of our own lives. It feels like things move slowly. But I do like to remember that if you look over every 100 years, like humans really do evolve. Like our lifetime is just a drop of water, and we could get over invested in our own experience. But if you look back 1,000 years and 900 years and 800 years, right? I heard the statistics, like I forget what year it is. I'm going to make it up, but it was something like this. In the year 1500, walking down the largest cities in the world, you had a 1 in 28 chance of being murdered. It was something like that, right? I mean, we're not even close to that. Yeah. Is there too much violence right now? Absolutely. But in my lifetime, if you had told me, I was born in 62, that we were going to at some point have a Black president, I would have thought there's no way that was going to happen, right? So we know we move the needle. Like with women right now, there's more women, older women in leadership positions than there've ever been. More older women are starting businesses. We used to die around the age of 49 in the year 1900, and now we could live decades past menopause and have a higher lifespan. So I like to remember that even though we can listen to each other and we can try to show examples of this, as being able to be empowered. It's short and it's long at the same time, right? Like I do believe we are making progress.
That is a beautiful
Awesome.
note to bring this to a lovely close, Donna. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robin, for bringing Donna in for this conversation. And Donna, so grateful for all the insights you have shared. We will be sharing your organization's link on the YouTube channel so that folks can connect with you. And we would love to have you back to have a next chapter to this conversation. And as we bring this to a close, I want to reiterate one of your major messages. We women know to give, and we need to give in a way that we are mindful of what is what is needed to be preserved for us too, right? So the image that comes to me is a tree. We water the roots of a tree, and the tree gives through the branches and the leaves and the flowers and the fruit. And for us, this Women Investing in Women is planting all these trees and watering all these trees, and then getting the benefit naturally, organically, authentically from all the other elements of the forest that we are creating. And truly, that is the image and the gift I want us to close today with, embracing your message to us today. So ladies out there, women out there, embrace your second act, cherish and celebrate your first act. And in the process, keep lifting each other up. And remember, just like the tree, we don't get the benefits where we water, but if we do it authentically and we do it with purpose, the universe always brings it back to us.